Ladies and gentlemen, up next, catfight, Michelle versus Kamala. Please welcome host of the Monica Crowley podcast, Monica Crowley, host of O'Connor Tonight, and morning host of WMAL FM, Larry O'Connor, senior columnist of townhall.com, Kurt Schlichter, and your moderator, Washington Bureau Chief, Breitbart News Network, Matt Boyle.
How about Mark Robinson, huh? Woo!
Hi! Hey, everybody!
Hey, CPAC. Matthew Boyle, ladies and gentlemen. Kurt Schlichter, ladies and gentlemen.
Larry O'Connor.
Monica Crowley, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you miss actually having someone at the Treasury Department who speaks English and actually communicates and worries about things like, you know, the economy and inflation instead of, what, climate change?
Exactly.
We need the Treasury Department to focus on climate change. All right, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, so the topic of this panel obviously is...
Sorry about that. It's already chaos.
Catfight, Michelle versus Kamala. And the point here is that we know what's going to happen on the Republican side. Donald J. Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for president again. We all know that is going to happen. The fact is that...
Sorry, Nikki Haley is in the back of the room objecting. It's not going to happen.
We don't know what's going to happen on the Democrat side. Technically speaking, right now, the current president, Joe Biden, is...
Allegedly,
yeah.
Leading candidate for president. He's got... he just put up a major fundraising number in January. But at the same time, you have a special counsel report that shows that, what we all know, this guy belongs in a memory care institution, not the Oval Office. Monica, you from this stage just a few years ago, I think, were the first person out there warning conservatives that we need to be ready for the possibility that they parachute in Michelle Obama at the convention.
Yeah, this is all your fault, Crowley.
It's
Make
all
your
my
case.
fault.
you had to give her the idea, didn't you?
Why should we be ready for Michelle? How is she going to do it?
Thank you, Maddie. And it's great to be here with everybody. And thanks to Matt and Mercy for having all of us here at CPAC. So, yeah, it was 2 years ago. I happened to see a brand new documentary at the time by my friend Joel Gilbert called Michelle Obama 2024. And a week or so later, I came here to CPAC. You know, a light bulb went off in my head when I watched that documentary. And I thought, even at the time, 2 years ago, there is no way that Joe Biden is going to be the Democrat nominee for president. I mean, he's always been a corrupt hack, but now he's a corrupt hack with dementia. So I thought there's no way that they can put him up in 24. And when I saw Joel's documentary, I thought, that seems to be the most obvious and logical route for the Democrats. So 2 years ago, from this stage, I was the very first person after Joel and his movie to raise the possibility that the Democrats might reach for Michelle Obama. And I'll never forget, the room fell silent. You guys, there was not a peep from any of you, could hear a pin drop. And then there was a collective gasp across the room. And I remember...
Well, and there was one F word, that was me.
That was you.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, guys, don't shoot the messenger. It does us no good to live in wishful thinking fantasy land that the Democrats don't have a plan. They're communists. Communists always have a plan to seize and retain power. And when you look at it right now, Joe Biden doesn't know what planet he's on, so the president is completely out to lunch, and the vice president is in a constant state of nervous breakdown. So the Democrats cannot run either one of them, and the solution seems to me, and there are all these names being thrown out like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, but now more and more people are on the Michelle bandwagon after I threw it out here 2 years ago. And it seems to me she covers all of the bases, unfortunately. But again, we need to deal in reality. Don't buy the nonsense that she is not political. She is totally political. Her father was a precinct captain in Chicago. So from the time she was a little girl, she was going to precinct meetings with her dad. Her best friend growing up was Jesse Jackson's daughter. So she was always at Jesse Jackson's house, etc. Look, she is completely political. The Democrats moved their convention to Chicago. Okay, so you start to put some of the pieces together, and it's entirely possible that they could make the change out at the convention in August. They can throw out all the rules because communists do not play by any rules.
Yeah.
Democrats just do whatever they want. and they could make the switch. And if they do that, then they can position Michelle as the reluctant candidate who really didn't want to do this, but she needs to save her party and her country, so she's been reluctantly recruited. Also, if they wait that long, they can run her as a pristine candidate without getting bruised and bloodied up in any kind of a primary. She only would have to run for 10 weeks to November 5th. And look, I don't know if any of this is going to happen. I know it sounds off the wall, but what we've been through over the last 8 years, everything has been off the wall.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I don't know how likely it is, and I hope to God that I'm wrong.
So, Kurt, you see things a little differently, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, I do, and I have a couple bones to pick. The first is catfight, Kamala versus Michelle. Why are you ruining catfights for us? The second thing is, I'm not convinced Joe Biden's planning on leaving the White House. Of course, I'm not convinced Joe Biden plans anything further than having his daily bowl of mush while watching Murder, She Wrote.
Two scoops.
Two scoops. His very real doctor wife is not going to leave. The minions, who all have their little power and prestige and sinecures, they're not going to go in. So I think it's going to be very tough to pry that desiccated old husk of a former human being out of the White House. But if they do, look, I don't think Michelle wants to be president. I think she enjoys her life. She's at Martha's Vineyard. She's on the yacht with Leonardo DiCaprio, babysitting his dates. I just don't think she wants to do it. Kamala, on the other hand, really wants to do it. If I were Joe Biden and she brought me the mush, I'd have Commander the dog taste it.
What do you say, Larry?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I always thought they moved the convention to Chicago because they wanted to send a message to MAGA country. If they can win in Chicago, take that, Jussie Smollett. I think, you all right there?
I'm fine.
All right. I think, this is how I think it's going to play out. I think that obviously if Joe Biden can't actually stand trial, he can't be president of the United States. As soon as they get rid of the messy Democratic process, because they're the Democratic Party, right? They get to the convention. He steps down not just from the ticket, but he steps down from the White House. Kamala Harris then becomes president of the United States and runs as a historic figure, our first woman president. And she's running as an incumbent from the convention for those 10 weeks, and because I don't see how they get rid of her. And you're right, Dr. Jill is going to hang on to the White House with her talons dug deep, but that's why she becomes Secretary of Education. Because, believe it or not, her doctorate is not in heart surgery. She's actually a PhD in education, and she cares very much about the children. So she becomes Secretary of Education, she still gets power, they still get the grift going for the Biden family, and Kamala is President of the United States running as an incumbent against Donald Trump.
The mechanics of this are very difficult because, and again, I don't know how realistic any of this is, because they don't just have to get rid of the president, they have to get rid of the vice president as well. She's historically the most unpopular vice president we have ever had.
Oh,
so
come on, she's doing a great job with the board.
And they can't really run her. So what's the solution? So again, I don't have the answers of how the Democrats would try to move both of them out. But you've got a couple of really important things going on here. First of all, the most devout Democrat constituency is black women. So if they were to bounce Kamala, that voting bloc would be absolutely enraged. The only way you square that circle is by running another woman of color, and Michelle meets that thing. But the other point about this, and this is a huge tell, guys, imagine if there were all of these whispers about a Republican candidate possibly jumping into the race, right? Somebody as iconic and sort of immune to criticism as Michelle Obama. Every single member of the imperial media would be staked outside their home. You'd have satellite trucks. You'd have people like Matty Boyle running after the candidate with a microphone. Hey, are you going to run? Are you going to run? Not a peep from the imperial media. Nobody has asked Michelle, are you running? Certainly not recently. There's no stakeout at the Obama homes. Not a word. And that is a huge tell, guys. That's a huge tell. She has not denied it, but the imperial media is not after her to answer the question.
Can I ask a question? I know it's not really my role here to ask a question, Matt, but you notice how we're all saying they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they're going to move this person out and they're going to put that. Who's they?
Exactly.
Who's they?
There's no they.
Who's actually? Well, is there?
I mean, well, there's
who's actually
there's
calling the
Barack
shots here? Who's actually in charge
But
here?
look, I mean, you can imagine Barack Obama trailing Nancy Pelosi and Schumer come into Joe Biden, and it's, well, Joe, it's time to go. Joe's an idiot, plus senile. So he's angry, and he's also a narcissist. He knows Barack Obama. Look, Barack Obama is a smart guy. Joe Biden's an idiot. And it always grates on Joe because it's very important for Joe. Oh, I have a very high IQ. Of course you do. You
know how you can tell the person with a really high IQ? They're constantly telling you they have a really high IQ.
If Joe wants to count to his IQ, all he has to do is take off his shoes. No, I mean, if Barack says, well, it's time to go for either Kamala or Michelle, he's just going to say, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, well.
So we were talking about this a little bit backstage. There are divisions between the Bidens and the Obamas. We see them play out a little bit occasionally. Sometimes when you see David Axelrod on CNN for about 11 seconds telling the truth for a little bit about Biden when it's really, really bad. How do we square that circle, Monica? How do you get to a place where the Obamas and the Bidens come back together for this grand reunion where Michelle Obama takes it at the convention?
Well, yeah, and that's a great point, but it sort of dovetails with the question you just raised, which is who is they? So obviously what we're living through right now is not the Biden administration. This is Obama 3.0. And they installed Joe Biden in there because they knew he was a senile guy and could be a puppet. And so they're the ones pulling the strings. The left has a whole group of power brokers working in conjunction with the deep state, which is real. So when you say they, there are some really powerful shadowy figures, including Barack and Michelle Obama, who are pulling all of the strings right now. Again, I don't know the mechanics of removing Biden, who is going to be very stubborn and is not going to go on his own. Kamala, same thing. Very stubborn, not going to go on her own.
I'll tell you how they get rid of Joe.
Well,
I'll tell you. I'll pick this up.
But can I just
yeah, absolutely.
one final
Please
point? The final point, and then you can address some of the mechanics of getting rid of the two of them.
Yeah.
But if they've got Obama 3.0 right now, they want Obama 4.0 and 5.0.
Yeah.
And the only way they can really guarantee that is having Michelle in the White House, because Gavin Newsom, Mrs. Clinton, Gretchen Whitmer, yeah, they'd be on the left and they'd do most of what they wanted in terms of advancing the Great Reset, but they couldn't totally control it the way they can with Biden and the way they could with Michelle.
It was Obama who decided it had to be Joe Biden. You'll remember it was during the Democrat primaries in 2020. He won South Carolina, and then Elizabeth Warren wasn't dropping out, Pete Buttigieg wasn't dropping out, Bernie Sanders wasn't dropping out, and Klobuchar, I think, was still in it, if I remember right. And then the phone call was made. It's got to be Joe. And Buttigieg gets out, Klobuchar gets out. They immediately endorse Joe Biden. Remember when Greg Brady got signed by that record producer to record a song, and then it turned out they didn't actually use his voice? And he was like, what is this? I thought you were... And they said, no, you fit the suit, right? Joe Biden fit the suit. He fit the suit. He was the right guy to run in that position. They could prop him up. How do they get rid of him? Of course he's stubborn. Of course he won't want to leave. So here's how the phone call goes. Or maybe they go into the Oval Office and they say, Joe, the heat is on Hunter, the heat is on your brother, and frankly, the heat is on you. And there's going to be a couple of very powerful Democrats in the House and in the Senate who are going to start publicly saying that this thing smells dirty. And there's going to be convictions and there's going to be impeachment. So here's your chance. You pardon your brother, you pardon your son, and you get the hell out of here. And that's how they get rid of Joe Biden.
You know, that reminds me of President Nixon, who was my first boss in his last years. And it was Barry Goldwater and the Republicans who went to Nixon in, late summer of 1974 and said, you're done. Your support among Republicans in the Senate and the House has collapsed. I'm not sure I see Democrats doing that. Maybe if they're given their marching orders.
The difference, Monica, is that Richard Nixon had respect for norms. He had respect for the United States of America. These guys don't. Joe Biden doesn't. Joe Biden is a the capo of a criminal organization, the Biden family. He doesn't care about the country. All he cares about is himself. I can see him, the day after his next inauguration, or the day before Donald Trump's inauguration, God willing, him pardoning his brother, his son, and himself. So, I don't think that's going to work because they're never going to jail. And I just don't see him leaving. And remember, the 25th Amendment, that takes Republicans'
There's
help.
an interesting point here that Larry brought up about the history of this and how Joe Biden became the Democrat nominee in 2020. And if you go back even a little bit further than that time frame when the Obamas stepped in and said, all right, it's got to be Joe, in South Carolina, what led up to that was the Jim Clyburn.
Jim Clyburn, that's right.
The Clyburn endorsement was contingent upon Joe had to pick a black woman as his vice president. And so when I would hear all these people talking about Gavin Newsom being the candidate in 2024, I'm like, I don't think so. Good luck to the white man that tries to take it away from the black woman, right? Like,
well, that's why it's Kamala show, right?
That's the point, is that this is Kamala's show.
Well, what about Hillary? Yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
I mean, she's still...
This is like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. You're going to...
Yeah, we should know better than summoning demons.
Who here thinks Hillary Clinton would love a chance to get back in it for this race, right?
I would love Hillary Clinton to get back in the race.
I mean,
I think that would be fantastic.
Since Bill Clinton was our first black president, that makes her, technically, she would be our first black woman president, right? Yeah.
I guess so.
Well,
and Kamala could be our first black woman president. And Michelle, well...
Look, to be clear, guys, to be clear, I want President Trump to run against Joe Biden because he is so vulnerable, right? I don't want any of this to unfold, but again, it does us no good not to be prepared. Yeah. And in fact,
well, what does that mean, be prepared?
Yeah.
Well, so do you think, Michelle, between the two of them, who beats Trump?
Well, this is what I said 2 years ago when I first put this out here, that we need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And Michelle Obama is the worst case scenario because she poses the most threatening challenge to President Trump.
Yeah.
I had President Trump on my podcast, which everybody here should be listening to if you're not already.
Are we supposed to plug our stuff up here? Is that okay?
I've been on her podcast. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Buy my books.
Larry's going to say, you haven't been on my podcast.
I haven't been on Monica's podcast.
But I had President Trump on my podcast a couple of months ago, and I asked him straight up. I was like, I know you're assuming at this point you're going to run against Joe Biden, but are you prepared for all contingencies, including running against Mrs. Obama? And there was a pause, and he said, yes, absolutely, we are prepared for all comers, for anybody. And I hope that's true.
By the way, President Trump expects that this will happen.
Because she is a woman of color. Right. She is considered iconic. She is immune to criticism.
Who considers her iconic?
I mean, the country considers her
I don't know.
iconic.
I think a lot of frustrated wine women from the suburbs do. But a lot of other people are like...
kind of an important vote these days, sadly.
We've just been through 4 years of the worst president since James Buchanan. A guy that Jimmy Carter celebrates because now he's not the worst president of the last century. And I don't know if it's Michelle's for the taking. If she comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be puzzled and go, no, I just don't think.
I will say that I don't know if he said
who
he expects to face, but last time I was with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in late December, we talked about this, and he is expecting that the Democrats, that Biden will step aside or be pushed aside, and that they'll try at the convention to go with Kamala, and that he thinks that they'll fail to get Kamala the job.
So what you're saying is Donald Trump agrees with me.
What he's saying is he hangs out with Donald Trump.
Yeah, that was subtle, wasn't it?
Then the question is who after Kamala, right? Like, and that's kind of what Monica's saying about Michelle Obama. But even if it isn't Michelle Obama, it could be somebody else, right?
Yeah,
so we do need to be prepared for it, no matter what happens.
Well, we agree that Kamala on the ticket is an absolute disaster for the Democrats. I mean, she makes Joe Biden look like Oppenheimer.
I think, without the charm. I think Kamala running as vice president while Joe plays out his feudal term is weak. If she's running as an incumbent president who has just taken over and has enjoyed all the celebration and honeymoon of our historic first black woman president, I think that's a pretty strong thing. I don't think it beats Trump, but I think that that's a strong move.
Well, I'd like them to think it's a strong move. Definitely do it. Put Kamala on there, please.
I saw a story the other day, guys, that they have now decided to put Kamala in charge of fixing the Biden campaign heading into the general election. I think that's a fantastic idea. She's done such a great job with everything else.
Fixing magic.
Right? Yeah, exactly. What do you guys think? Do you think Kamala can fix the Joe Biden campaign?
On the same day that Matt, you and Breitbart were reporting that the Biden campaign wanted to sort of reach for Kamala's advice and have her right the ship. That was the same day that Nikki Haley was up there crying over something, and I was like, not a good day for women. Not a good day for women. Your question, I'm sorry, what was your question?
My question is what do you think? I mean, do you think Kamala can fix the Biden campaign?
Kamala cannot tie her shoelaces and fix the campaign. She was assigned the border. They stuck her with all of the crap, right? So she's not on the border. She's not doing her job, period, because she's not capable. She has imposter syndrome. And it comes out all the time where she knows she's a fraud. She knows she doesn't belong in this position. So that's why the nervous laughter and the cackling and all of that, because she knows she's not up to the job. Biden does not have imposter syndrome. He doesn't belong there, but he thinks he does, which is the worst kind of arrogance whatsoever. So look, the two of them will be clinging to the White House curtains. They do not want to leave. So the left's power brokers, Barack and Michelle, working in conjunction with the deep state, FBI, CIA, all of the agencies that we know are so deeply corrupt, they will make some sort of move on one or both of them.
And the last thing
I hope I'm wrong.
Another story that we saw recently, too, is that the White House is really hoping that the State of the Union address coming up next week is going to help Joe Biden prove to the nation that the special counsel report that he has memory loss is not true. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean,
so he's going to prove he has no memory loss by reading off a screen.
Yeah, he has trouble doing that.
I mean, that's as insane as saying, you know, Kamala Harris is going to fix the campaign. Kamala Harris is going to fix his campaign the way me and my wife had the vet fix our terrier.
He's going to cut the nads off the campaign.
That's
don't misgender the
Yeah.
campaign.
I didn't mean to assume the gender of your dog.
Or the campaign.
Or the campaign. I don't have a good answer for that, but I would like to say, because we keep saying Matt and Breitbart, and I just can't not take this opportunity real fast. It was 15 years ago at CPAC 2010, that my friend and brand new boss, Andrew Breitbart, told me to come here, and this is my 15th time here on this stage. If it weren't for Andrew Breitbart, Kurt Schlichter wouldn't be sitting here.
I'd just be a
lawyer.
Yeah.
Matt wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
And on March 1st, we're going to honor and recognize the 12th anniversary of his untimely passing. So since we're at CPAC, and CPAC is connected so dearly to Andrew Breitbart, if I could just say, God bless you and thank you, Andrew, for everything you've done for us.
A true visionary.
Sorry, you get the last word.
No. Please.
I would just echo everything Larry said about Andrew. So Andrew Breitbart was a titan, so we owe a lot.
And I think he would have loved
He was a man ahead of his time.
He would have loved this conversation
Yes, he would
For
have.
sure.
that we just had.
All
He
right,
would have
guys.
said, be meaner.
It's true. We were way too nice.
Yeah, we're very, very polite.
Except for that thing I said about Michelle.
Or didn't say.
Exactly. I said nothing. Got that, Media Matters?
I know the Media Matter guys.
Wasn't
like
me.
How do I
didn't
do
say
this?
it.
How
It
do
was
I do
Schlichter.
this?
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Everybody.